Get this puppy on the road. So this is the welcome everybody. This is the June 4th, 2025 meeting of the Dunn County Planning Resource and Development Committee. Looks like all members are present, so we have a quorum. Approval of the minutes from April 16th. It's been a while since we met.
I'll move approval, Mr. Chairman.
We have a motion, a second. Carrie seconds. Any questions or corrections from anyone? Okay, all in favor of approval of the minutes, say aye. All opposed, say no. Minutes are approved. Public comments. Anyone here have public comments? Okay. We have no public hearing. Staff reports. It's been a little while since we had these, so we moved them around to the last meeting of the month, or the first meeting of this month this time. And Heather's up first, but Heather is at her conference today, and so she won't be joining us. So does anyone have any questions about Heather's report or comments? Okay. Then let's move on. Next, it's survey.
Thank you, Tom. Good morning, everyone. So my report is up here on the screen. Not much happened in April as far as land divisions are concerned. We had two new parcels created in Tanner, one in Colfax. 9 maps of survey came in. We had some remonumentation work that we performed in a lot of different townships throughout the county. I attended a steering committee meeting related to our new ERP system, and we also had a department head and senior management meeting and 2 priority-based budget meetings, which focused on departmental program inventories. So you're going to be seeing more of that as we move forward through the budget process. I want to stop and speak a little bit about recruitment for the vacant survey tech position. The job was posted for a considerable amount of time. We had some interest, conducted some phone screenings, and then also did an in-person interview. And nobody really, I guess, stood out that we wanted to hire. I shouldn't say that. One person stood out, but we couldn't meet their salary expectations. So we went back to the drawing board. I sat down with Tammy. We involved Dan and Chris, Human Resources, trying to figure out, the operational needs for not only the survey division, but greater ENS and specifically planning and zoning as well. And what we decided was I had a full 1 FTE position for that survey tech. Tammy had a vacant 0.5 FTE roughly. So we decided that we would reduce the survey tech position down to a part-time position, take that 0.5 FTE, combine it with planning and zoning's 0.5 to create a full-time zoning specialist, another zoning specialist. There's one person in that role now. So we'd create a second zoning specialist position. Troy Stoll, the previous incumbent for the survey technician position, expressed an interest coming back part-time. So he applied for the half-time position that was newly created, and he ended up starting on May 19th in that role. So we're glad to have him back. He needs absolutely zero training, hit the ground running on day one. He's familiar with all our equipment, our processes, procedures. So that was, I guess, a win in my book. We're not at 100%, but we're running much more efficiently now than we were the last few months. So I'm relieved that we have that that position filled. And then I'll let Tammy speak more on the zoning side of it. But do you have any questions on this minor reorganization, I guess is what I would call it? We basically went down to a half-time position.
Not on the position, but well done, creative thinking.
Yeah.
I was curious about how you reacted to the priority-based budgeting, this inventory process. Maybe that's a question for everybody, but
yeah, I'll speak for myself. It really makes you think. I mean, we had
Okay.
it's a 3-part or 3-step part, we're on step 3 right now, but the first part was identifying our program inventories. And it really makes you think and consolidate, what do you do day to day, week to week throughout the year? What are your main focus areas? And who else in the county may share some of those same duties, like assisting the public is one of those areas that is across the entire county. I do it, Tammy does it, Chase does it, Register of Deeds does it. Preparing budgets, financial reports. So it really made us think about what we do, even this committee pulling reports together, organizing documents for this committee. It's a fraction of my time, but it's time that I have to think about. So I think from that standpoint, it was a good exercise. It really outlines what everybody does, not only the managers, but also our staff, figuring that piece of it out. And then the second portion that we've completed is the costing. So now that we've got our programs identified, what does it cost to administer all these programs? Levy sources, do we have offsetting revenue that comes in? If so, how much? So that piece is done, and now we're on to the prioritization part. How well do all these programs and initiatives align with the directional plan, which was done years ago? I don't know if people remember that, but that's a living document that's out there. And then, yeah, we're still working through that. We actually just had training on that this week. So yesterday. So we're still working through some of those pieces, which is due in 2 weeks. But I think overall it's positive. It's gonna give you, the supervisors, more information than you've ever had, and allow you to make
That was the point.
decisions and see where the money's being spent. How much does it cost the county to administer these programs, and how high of a priority is it for the county and the taxpayers and the people we serve? So that's my take on it.
Good, thank you, Tom.
Thanks, Tom. Gary,
So how long does like your Troy plan on working? Is it, a year or no idea or?
There's no set time frame. In his words, he says he enjoys working here, and he's glad to assist as long as he's able to, whether that be 6 months, a year, it might be 5 years. I don't know. So there is no set date. Nope. He could at any time decide he's had enough, and then we're back to the drawing board.
Does it get any kind of like benefits at all, working part-time
He
or?
gets in lieu of fringes, so it's about $2.55 an hour on top of his hourly salary.
Oh,
But
okay.
he doesn't get health insurance or any of those other benefits.
Okay, thank you.
thanks, Tom. I share Diane. I think the whole committee appreciates the willingness of our staff to come together and find solutions of sharing staff and whatever. Really, really great work. Tammy.
Good morning, and maybe I'll just piggyback quick on Tom's comment about the zoning specialist position, and really the intent also with this individual is going to still serve a role with the survey department. So our plan is 1, if not 2 days a week to help with that division along with, our planning and zoning role. So I think there's that. I appreciate that flexibility, that we're given this opportunity to work with a candidate, that, as we fill that vacancy to, help grow that individual in what direction they want to go. And say, okay, maybe you don't want to do planning and zoning, they do want to do surveying. They would have 2 great mentors in the survey division to help grow their career path if they wanted to. So very thankful for that opportunity. As far as April activities go, it was a busy month. Again, it's probably a reflection of our sanitary maintenance letters that went out at the end of March, where our phone calls, were overwhelming. and other measures we put in place to try to hopefully direct phone calls through a call tree still resulted in us having direct contact with individuals. So I don't know if anyone has any questions about that, but again, we've had more interest in these non-farm parcels in the town of Wilson. It's must be a hot spot for building. So I think that's something we will will be revisiting with a comprehensive plan as far as the farmland preservation and, the primary ag zoning district, and are we still accomplishing what we want to with that district? And I guess our mailing, again, like I said, our mailing went out just over 2,400 property owners, and maintenances are coming in, so it's good. I guess on to the next page, and yeah, I feel like the exciting news is that we launched our permit software, this Catalyst in April. It was an exhausting effort. I'm not gonna lie, to try to get through everything, but Rachel from IT has been, our real property has been a great lead support for us to get that project up and running. So hopefully it turns to be very valuable for the public. And as we create access to more information, I think it'll be very valuable. I don't know if anyone has any questions as far as the April report goes.
Glad to see that Lily's on board now. That's a full-time staff person. So,
Correct.
yeah,
Yep. Yes.
welcome. Any questions? Just when are people surprised when they get their pouch notice from you? Yeah.
Yeah.
They hadn't been out of mind, out of thought.
Yeah. Yep. It's the, why am I getting it now?
Yeah.
Comments, and I've had this since 1970, and why am I getting a notice? And so, that's, I think through this process, we're discovering properties that were put into an off maintenance program, for example, and now they're getting a notice. So our technology is getting better, so we can filter and find all the properties with private septic systems. And so, but most of the time, it's everyone gets it, and they're afraid of that 30 days to get it, and wants to get their notice and report their activity right away to us.
Thank you, Tammy. I'm curious, when did we start sending these out? Like 3 years ago or 4 years ago? Consistently sending them out?
Oh, I'm gonna say when I went back just to try to prepare for the annual report, I'm gonna say it went back to middle, 2007 is a time frame that really kind of sits in my brain, but it's been for quite a long time.
Took a while to find me then, I think.
Oh, so you're one of them that was
I've gotten
maybe
2
that.
notices, I think.
Okay.
I mean, not in the same year.
I hope not.
Oh, of course.
Good.
Thank you. Just curious.
Yep.
Okay. Anything else?
Yeah.
Oh, Michelle.
I had heard through the grapevine that there was a septic incident, let's call it, in one of the mobile home parks in Menominee not too long ago. Was wondering if the county was involved in that at all. I guess not.
I'm aware of a well issue in one of our mobile home parks, septic. I guess I'm gonna look at Lily like I'm trying to think of something. Probably, and I'm not coming to mind, but
Okay.
I apologize.
I was just curious. Yeah, I'd heard that people were complaining that there was raw sewage in their yard and things like that, but I don't know exactly
Okay,
what happened.
Nope, that one does not ring a bell.
Okay.
Nope.
All right, sounds good. Thanks.
Yep.
Thanks. Chase.
Morning, everyone. In the packet was our April report. Like with all of us, it's always busy, but this time of year is construction's happening. April was a decent month as far as getting some things done. Yeah, I guess a couple things I highlighted in the report, our non-metallic mine reclamation program. I think I reported last time that we had an applicant for a new site in the town of Springbrook. That has gone through the public notice process. There hasn't been any request for a public informational hearing, so we're in the process of moving forward with the permitting with that operator and landowner. Groundwater private well monitoring, the signups are still ongoing for that. As of writing this report last week, we had about 284 participants, and I hear Heather's phone ringing frequently and having conversations since then. So our goal is 300. That's about the meets roughly the budget that we have set up for this year. And that funding is coming from that EPA award that we received of 35,000. We're hoping to try to stretch that out over several years. And some of the cost or efficiencies with that is to run these samples through our own public health lab now. So we're looking forward to that. Supervisor Kinnear and I attended the Hayward Joint Finance Committee Legislative Listening Session. We coordinated our 2-minute speech in stellar fashion and got out of there on time. But the latest that I know on that process with the state budget is that there's been an alternative proposal. So the request was originally for $20.2 million to go to the base support for staff, and that has changed to 14.6 million in fiscal year 2026 and 15.4 million in 2027, with some additions to the base on that instead of the traditional 8.9 or $9 million. So that's going to bump up to roughly 12 million. So it's not exactly what the request is for, and certainly nothing's been approved yet, but that's typically how this goes, right? You ask for things and think you have a good momentum going forward, and things change. So we'll take what it is. I guess the last thing to highlight here is the individual sitting next to me. This is Katie Hayworth. She's our summer intern, our natural resources intern. Just a reminder that position is fully funded and supported through the Alliance of Dunn County Conservation and Sports Clubs. So Katie's been with us since May 12th. We've got her doing some office work, but she's been able to get outside a lot and experience some things, a lot of farm visits, construction and that sort of thing. And I just thought I'd give a couple minutes, just a minute for Katie to introduce herself.
Sure.
And if you have
Yeah.
any questions.
Welcome, Keith.
Hello, everyone. So I'm Katie Hayworth. I'm born and raised in Eau Claire, Wisconsin, and currently going to school at Winona State. Just finished my second year there, going for geoscience. It's really nice to be back home for the summer, working in communities that I grew up in, and I'm very thankful for the opportunity to be meeting so many people and gaining experience in my field. Yeah.
Welcome.
Yeah, so if you have any questions for us.
Questions?
happy to try to
Sure.
answer.
So how big was that non-metallic mine operation? Was it a big one? Was it more for gravel, or what was it really for?
Yeah, it's less than 5 acres. It's a sand and gravel mine site. Basically, it's a contractor that is using it for their business, but it meets the threshold and requirements for
Okay.
requiring a permit and a reclamation plan. So, but it's sand and gravel.
Anything else? Okay. As always, thank you. Annual report review.
Yeah, so I'll start off with our annual report. So we're scheduled to go to county board here in June to present our 2024 annual report. The three of us kind of did an individual division report, and we intend to do a joint presentation for county board, and we'll try to give that here. In my report, as far as land and water conservation, just tried to, haven't done this in the past, but give a picture of staff so you know who they are. The individual in the very center and the top you might not recognize, but that's Caden Erickson. He was our natural resources intern from last year. So maybe next year's report will have Katie in it. So yeah, as far as the general part of the report, just tried to highlight give an overview of all the programs that we're involved in, and give a kind of a rundown of some highlighted areas. So certainly covering the groundwater monitoring program going forward. And then as far as the presentation goes, that we'll cover here, is going to try to focus a little bit on the one area of ag performance standards within our county's ordinance. And later on this agenda, as well as will be the county board agenda, is a resolution for a budget adjustment for a notice of discharge grant, which you've seen in the past. But that is a tool and I guess a part of implementation of ag performance standards. Also in the annual report, you'll see a nice picture of Bob Kaner. He received that award last year, Conservation Legacy Award, and he's He's on 40 years of work here for Dunn County Land Water Conservation. So the rest of the report just tried to give some numbers, not all narrative, but try to just give some quantitative things as far as what we've been worked on in that part of the year. I guess with that, I will turn it over to my partners and we can come back and visit.
Well, I did an annual report for 2024, which was an interesting experience, seeing that I wasn't serving in the zoning administrator planner role. But I try to hopefully capture the events that occurred. Again, we had kind of a changeover in our Board of Adjustment where we lost Mark and Jill Noreen on the board, and maintained Crystal, David, Jerry, and later on had Steve join in. And I think we had one meeting with Steve and then he didn't have to attend anymore. So just kind of reflection of our Board of Adjustment and staffing. The next couple slides just really cover, what planning or comprehensive planning is, zoning, land use regulation. On to the next slide, or our POUTS program. This is a system I was fortunate enough to inspect this last year, which was a very complicated system on a very tight lot that had a distribution box in different chambers. So they get credit for this type of product so they can downsize the system. It was a fun experience to go out and inspect the system. Next slide. Again, just trying to capture our permit numbers, trends over the years. So in 2024, we had 272 zoning permits, and sanitary, that's 195. That doesn't reflect our county sanitary permits, but that would be our state sanitary permit numbers, trends over the years. So the highlights and big wins, obviously this committee went through a lot with the accessory dwelling unit ordinance that went into effect the end of July. Since then, we've had only three ADUs permitted so far. The comprehensive plan, farmland preservation plan update, that contract was started in 2024, which really set the framework for all the work that's getting done now in 2025 and 2026. Housing work group, there was a lot of work that was done there with that housing toolkit, which is now hosted on the Momentum West Works, our website. Next. Highlights for our Board of Adjustment, where we had the 6 rezoning request. Board of Adjustment had 6 special exceptions, 3 variances. And again, a big highlight from 2024, I would say, was that Grawl variance case that was appealed and then remanded back to the Board of Adjustment to issue that variance. And then court enforcement compliance, continues to be a hefty workload. Camper dwellings, fences, unpermitted structures, vegetative buffers being lost, destroyed, and then again, the common outdoor storage and junk are the top violating, complaints we receive. Again, starting that catalyst permit system started in 2024. And then some highlight of our staffing changes. We had Sue Bratho, who moved on to the county clerk's office. So we had her for less than a month, but luckily we were able to retain her with Dunn County. We welcomed Lily to our staff in July. We said goodbye to Anne in December. And then again, our Board of Adjustment changes that occurred in 2024. And, staff highlights, we are part of our organization, the West Central Zoning Administrators, and Tracy was reelected as our secretary treasurer for that group. So she serves a great role, connection to our area counties, and maintains that line of communication. And so we can also share resources and information about what's going on. That's about all I have.
Thank you.
Tammy, state and county sanitary permits, what's the difference?
Good question. County sanitary would be a reconnection. What would occur if you're adding a shed with a bathroom? We would just handle that as a county sanitary permit for reconnection. Additionally would be a holding tank that would be less than 150 gallons per day use. So those are our seasonal cabins. We get that, our privy permits. So either a compost toilet or non-pump, so I should say they're non-plumbing sanitation, which would include a privy, compost toilet would be all handled under a county sanitary.
And one other question not related to that, the judge's decision to remand it back to the BOA, do you think that will set any precedent?
It should not. Any case held either special exception, typically it should not be precedent setting unless it goes through, onto the US Supreme, well, I guess, to the state court system could set some precedent or ruling from there, but locally, no, it would not. Thank you.
Did you get a lot of sense that you sent out to the townships for a survey? Did that come back pretty good or?
Well, that's interesting you say that, Mr. Gary Bjork, saying that we didn't get a response back from the town of Colfax.
We talked about it, I know.
You walked right into that one.
I walked into that one, Gary.
I just sent out a gentle nudge reminder to some of our townships. I think there was 8 of them that did not submit responses back to us. So, I mean, not, I guess overly, overall, I think a good response, but the towns that I have reached out to, I think 3 of them have responded and said, sorry, we forgot, and they intend to get us their responses. So hopefully we get everyone to submit their information to us.
It's on record, Jerry.
Right.
We have you on tape. Yeah. Okay, thank you, Tammy.
Good morning, everyone, again. So this is my portion of our written annual report. Let me just make this a little larger, but, so staff from 2024 included myself, Greg Botzer, he's been here since 2013 as a professional land surveyor. And then, of course, Troy Stoll was with us, for most of 2024. He retired on December 19th. So, regulated land, I could make this larger, hang on here, but, regulated land developments submitted to the county. That's a large part of what I do, administering the county land division ordinance. So in 2024, we had 95 certified survey maps submitted for review, which created 153 new parcels. The fees we took in, 27,900, all went into the general fund. At the end of the report, I'll have some statistical trends for the last 5 years. We work for the highway department. A lot of what they do impacts survey irons. They're disturbing the right of way. In some cases, they're purchasing new right of way. So as a courtesy to the landowners, we go out ahead of time, and this is just the county highways. The same construction work happens on town roads. We just can't simply take care of all of that work. But we feel if our highway department is going to remove irons that were paid for and set by a private surveyor, we should be going back and resetting them as a courtesy, if in fact we were the agency that removed them. So we go out ahead of time. We do have to do some research, find out what surveys are along the corridors under construction. We go out, find the irons. If they're there, we measure them, locate them, and then we go back once construction is done to make sure that nothing has been disturbed. If something has been disturbed or removed, then we reset those irons for the landowners and file a map of our results. So you can see the different projects that we worked on: County Highway Z in the town of O'Galley, Double V in Sheridan, County Highway H in Elk Mound, and County Highway M in Sand Creek. Remonumentation of public land survey system corners. I'm going to focus on this in the PowerPoint portion, which will be coming up here next, and of course going to county board on the 18th. But that's a large part of what our office does. There's roughly 2,800 corners, government corners, that were set in between 1847 and about 1853 in Dunn County. So they're part of the public land survey system. Most land description, actually all land descriptions within the county, are based off those corners. So in 2024, We made visits to 221 unique corners, which would include meander corners, witness corners, centers of section, 40 corners, and government lot corners. Private landowners, in conjunction with their surveyor, sometimes submit requests to our office. So we had some of those requests. 16 corners actually were requested by private surveyors. And then 46 corners involved road maintenance due to new road construction. So when everything is done, we have to file a record of our findings. So any surveyor coming behind us knows when we were there and the type of work that was performed. So there were 110 of those land corner record forms that were drafted and filed. Some pictures of monuments we found throughout the year, a train axle on the, or a locomotive axle from a train on the left, a scribe survey stone in the town of Otter Creek, crankshaft from a 4-cylinder engine we found on the left, and then bearing a tree that was marked and blazed in September of 1849 in the town of Peru. So, and some of these I know committee has seen before, but filing and indexing survey records. So anytime a survey is done in the county, within 60 days, the surveyor by law, Wisconsin Administrative Code has to file a true and correct copy with the county. So we received 180 survey maps in 2024 for filing. So each map has to be indexed, scanned, filed as part of the public record. And then they're also linked. Our survey database and the associated images are linked with the county GIS website. So everything is searchable. Wouldn't say everything. Most of our records are searchable online. We do have some older records that the only way you can find them is to come in and search our office. Some additional items to note, every year we attend continuing education the last week in January. So we did that. And then there's 4 quarterly County Surveyor Association meetings that we try to attend. I'm actually the treasurer for our organization. So I typically attend all 4 meetings. And then we also attend the Red Cedar Conference hosted by UW Stout. And then the last thing is, and I mentioned this earlier, but Troy Stoll, long-term employee of the county surveyor's office, retired on December 19th. He had just shy of 30 years of service. So, but as I mentioned, he's back, so we're happy for that. Some exhibits at the end. These are remonumentation requests and the cost savings. So you can see in 2024, we had 3 requests come in. The private surveyor has to give us an estimate of what he or she feels we're saving their client if they were to go out and do the work. So those 3 requests resulted in approximate cost savings to clients of about $9,500. You can see the totals for the last 29 years. So as we get more and more corners in, the number of requests go down. If you go back 96, 97, I mean, 2001, we had 27 requests in that one year. So, but as corners get reestablished and perpetuated and maintained, in theory, the number of requests should go down. So, so that's where we're at. This is just a breakdown of land divisions by township for the last 5 years. You can see where the divisions have happened and how much acreage has been chewed up because of those. And then I have a graph at the end here showing the number of parcels created the last 5 years. So 2024 is kind of right on par with 2021 and 2022. So, and that concludes my portion of the report and the entire ENS written report. So if there's any questions for my division, I'd be happy to answer them.
Yeah, time.
I struggled with this. I was reading this yesterday. What is a witness corner? I don't think I've ever read that before.
Good question.
Maybe I made it up.
So an example would be Lake O'Galley. Everybody knows where Lake O'Galley is. We have a section corner. Actually, there's 2 section corners that fall in the lake. The lake wasn't there years ago. It was a mill pond, and over time the dam got constructed and built larger, and it backed all the water up. So now those positions that fall in the lake, we're not gonna go into the lake and put a monument in the bottom, so we have to put a witness to the true corner. So we'll set up a witness monument on high ground, typically on the section line, a certain distance, 500 feet, 1,000 feet, 450 feet, a set distance on the section line. So a surveyor can come out there and locate that monument and then compute a direction and distance to the true location and in the lake. So it's a witness to the true location. Another good example is 3M, just north of town. We have a section corner that falls within their facility, inside their building, under the roof. So we have a witness corner outside the perimeter of 3M, outside their fence, right? It has to be someplace accessible. We don't want it within their secure area because 10 surveyors might need to use that this year. So we set outside their cyclone fence, we put a witness monument and then gave or reported the direction and distance to the true location located in their building. So that'd be another example of where a witness corner was necessary. Good question.
So when you put a new monument in, is it magnetized? I mean, so it'd be easier to find if you're trying to, like the new ones, are they all magnetized or you have something that make it easier to find?
Yes, so of course, iron by nature is
Yep.
magnetic. We use a variety of monuments. When we're off the road, typically we'll drive in a 7/8 inch diameter rebar, 30 inches long, and then we put an aluminum cap on top of that. We have aluminum monuments that by nature are not magnetic, but the manufacturer places two magnets in, one underneath the cap. So the aluminum monuments are 30 inches long. They have a flared base on the bottom. You have to dig them in with a post hole digger, then pack them in. And the thought is that that flared base, which is about 6 inches square, prevents that monument from heaving, or being removed by a landowner very easily unless you dig it out. So in the base of that monument, there's magnets, and then under the cap, there's magnets, because sometimes the top will get sheared off, and then you lose the ability to find it, especially if it's buried. But if there's magnets in the bottom, typically nobody's going to remove those, so you can still find it. And then in roads, typically we use a 3-inch long nail, and they're magnetized. So, and we find they're a much better monument now, especially when roads get redone. Because if you have 30-inch rebar and they come through and pulverize the road, typically that rebar doesn't get removed. It gets mangled and twisted and bent. And then we come back after new paving is done. It's very difficult to get a new monument in because we're struggling with this bent rebar in the road that now we got to work around or try and remove. Whereas if we put a 3-inch nail in, when they come through and pulverize that 15 years from now or 20, that nail is just gone. And we can come back and set a new one. They're very easy to find. Pick them up incredibly well with a metal locator. So yes, everything we do has some type of magnetic property, so it's easy to find.
So when you got the nail and gets all ground up, is it very hard to go out and find the exact spot where it was before? Is there some witnesses or something that'll kind of help you?
So Wisconsin Administrative Code says that a surveyor, when reestablishing a corner, we have to monument the position, and then we also by law have to have 4 witnesses, a minimum of 4 witnesses. They can be building corners, they can be a nail in the side of a tree, nail in a power pole, corner of a sidewalk, or irons. Typically, we like to set irons, but sometimes a building corner is handy, especially when you're working in town. There's a nice brick building, something very stable, been there 100 years, it's not going to move on you. So yes, we have to set witnesses. But to further expand on that, if we've been to a corner and have very accurate GPS coordinates, then we'll use that coordinate to reset that nail or whatever was there previously. And we work in hundredths of a foot, and our acceptable tolerance is around 1/10 of a foot. So, which is roughly an inch, a little more than an inch. But typically I would like to, personally, we get these monuments back within, I'd say, 1/4 of an inch to a 1/2 an inch of where they were. Yeah, our equipment isn't perfect. There's built-in tolerances, but yes, if we have a very accurate coordinate, then we can get monuments set right back where they were.
Did you get a bunch of new equipment? I thought I remember talking about your old ones was getting wore out. Has that been done or?
Yes, that was about 2 years ago, I want to say now. It's called a total station. It's basically an instrument that measures horizontal angles, vertical angles, and distance with a laser. You have to have a prism on a pole. So one person runs the instrument. You, Gary, would be walking around with the rod. I would turn to you. I could shoot a distance right to you, record an angle from a baseline that we had established called a total station. The one that we purchased in 1995. So it's it was still working okay. The problem was with our newer GPS equipment, it wasn't Bluetooth compatible, so it couldn't talk or communicate with our new data collector. So we'd have to have a go around to transfer data between from one to the other, and it was just not efficient. Plus, if it needed repairs, finding parts for it, we were depending on that working day in and day out. And if it died on us one day, now what do we do? So it was just like, replacing a vehicle. It was time. It had served us well, but it was falling behind as far as technology. So we purchased a new one. It was about, I want to say it was 2 years ago. Yes.
Okay, that's all, I guess. Thanks, everybody. So let's see, 7 and 8 are vacant.
Can you share your presentation?
Yes, Tom, we do have a PowerPoint too that we'd like to go
Oh,
through.
okay.
And this will be presented at county board, and I'll let Chase go first because he's first in the report. I'll just bring that up here quick.
Yes, so this is our presentation we plan to give for county board. Our intention is to keep it brief, 10 minutes, 15 tops, maybe less, depending on questions, obviously. But yeah, if Tom, you just want to skip through here, some of the things I've already said today, just trying to highlight staff, who we are. And then next slide, please. Just a rundown again, this has been in annual reports in the past of generally the main programs we work in. And then try to highlight, starting out, I plan to focus on our ag performance standards ordinance, but with that is a number of other guiding documents and plans that we certainly follow and try to work towards achieving those goals and those plans or ordinances. Go ahead, Tom. So to focus on our ag performance standards, so this is an administrative code, NR 151. All of you have probably heard me talk about this before, but trying to focus on one program for the county board meeting. These ag performance standards have been in existence since October 1 of 2002. And most recently, we adopted as a county into county ordinance in July of 21, these same performance standards. The reason for that adoption into ordinance is to help provide a little bit more local control. Otherwise, we generally, and we still do to this day, rely on our partnership with the DNR for the implementation of this code. So this NR 151 is a DNR natural resources code, but most of the counties in the state provide some sort of implementation component to that. If you want to just back up one more time, Tom. Yeah, so just a few highlights for 2024, just to provide some numbers. So part of the ag performance standards is making sure that all farms in Dunn County or in the state are farming in a way that meets tolerable soil loss or farming to T, that they have a nutrient management plan, they follow manure prohibitions, manure storage management prohibitions and practices. And these numbers here are just trying to illustrate some of the activity that took place in 2024 that pertains to that. So nutrient management planning, we provided cost share for a number of those plans that are new plans. Roughly, we have around 64 to 65,000 acres of nutrient management plans that are turned into the county every year. It's not to say that other farms that don't turn the plan in aren't doing nutrient management, but as a part of our requirements for a number of different programs, they do turn those in. We've closed some manure storage structures, provided cost share for a new one, which I'll cover in a little bit. And then also our ordinance and farmland preservation, just compliance reviews where we get on site to meet with landowners and walk through some of that. Go ahead, Tom. So just to highlight here quick again, some of the ag performance standards, and part of that is the implementation side of it and a requirement of the requirement to offer cost share for implementation. So any farm or practice or property that was in existence as a farm or a component of a farm prior to October 1 of 2002, if it's deemed out of compliance with the ag performance standards, there's a requirement to offer cost share. That cost share is a component of funds that we receive from the state through our Soil and Water Resource Management Grant Program. and then also some other avenues. There are exceptions to the requirement of offer of kosher. So if you built a new farm, a new facility, maybe brought new land into production following October 1 of 2002, there is not a requirement to offer kosher. Another exception would be if you're participating in a farmland preservation program and claiming a tax credit. That tax credit, you're required to meet the ag performance standards as a part of that. And then any permitting or licensing. So if you receive a manure storage permit, a livestock siting permit, there's not necessarily a requirement that kosher needs to be offered for compliance. We would like to, compliance needs to be achieved as a part of that process. Next slide, please, Tom. So you're familiar with this as a committee, notice of discharge grant. County board has seen this as well as through budget adjustments in the past. This notice of discharge grant is a form of kosher that we were able to provide and offer to a landowner to come into compliance with some ag performance standards and manure storage prohibitions. So a malfunctioning, failing, mismanaged manure storage facility, overtopping, discharging to surface water downstream, potential discharge to groundwater. As a part of this process, a long process. So this isn't just we go out and meet with a landowner, offer cost share, they fix it the same year. We've been working with this landowner. I think our notes go back to 2004, off and on to establish a relationship and then to move forward with compliance matters. It does sound like a long time, but there are certain hurdles that we need to overcome, and some of those are the funding side of it. To find cost share funds to provide a bona fide offer, typically it's 70%. In this case, this landowner qualified for economic hardship, which then was a 90% option or offer of cost share. This total, you can see the total cost of this project, the notice of discharge grant that provided that. There was some other assistance through NRCS. And then the very last bullet point there is just part of our calculation, especially in this particular site, is within the Red Cedar watershed. Part of that total maximum daily load or reducing the phosphorus discharge to that water, to those water bodies. And we try to calculate the phosphorus saved that might have been discharged. So this project, this grant was started in 2022, and it was finished in 2024. And I'll mention now, as I will at County Board, since this next agenda item that you'll hear today is another notice of discharge grant for another farm to assist that farm in meeting compliance requirements. I would also point out that we don't take these situations very lightly. I mean, this is people's livelihood, and we consider that in the conversation and how we move forward. And also would say that to think about the economic benefit that may come. So as an individual landowner, there are certainly some costs that they need to incur to achieve this. The overall community benefit, in this case is important. But then also when we can bring cost share funds back into the community. So I believe when this grant was awarded, that's on screen right now, there's roughly around $1 million available statewide. And as you can see, we've got almost over 3/4 of that coming back. What I'll talk about next in our next agenda item is roughly in 2024 is about $1.7 million available for the notice of discharge grant program. And we've been fortunate to be awarded $880,000 of that. So that money is coming back into the county. It's helping address a resource concern, but it's also, getting into circulation within contractors and building supply and materials and wages and that sort of thing. So, Tom, if you want to jump to the next slide. I think that's it for me and my portion. Like I said, I'll try to keep it to 2 to 3 minutes. Maybe I went over right now, but I guess looking forward into 25 and 26, we will be updating our land and water resource management plan. And that is a component, certainly that we can piggyback a lot of resources that we're helping with and working through in the comp plan. So my part's done. Any questions?
How do we get to a point where the degree of failure is so problematic? Is it the poor design in the beginning or a combination of things?
So in this particular cases, it was poor design, probably a a lack of capacity for management, meaning the design and the type of system that was being implemented wasn't very conducive to an efficient management of it. Therefore, then the management slips and so, not all farms are equal. There's a number of different factors that we have to consider when we're working with them. And I know there's a lot of perspective or perception or opinion that we should just go in and, force people to correct and clean things up. And that's just not the reality. We take that very seriously and try to find solutions that are supportive of all of our community members, including the individual that we're working with. But yeah, typically it's a combination of management and potentially poor design. Or it was designed appropriately at one time, but the operation changed in a way that now it doesn't meet the needs that they have. So
Do we ever compute in the time that the system has been in failure? Do you ever compute phosphorus load or other statistics about environmental damage?
So in that slide where I had, it was 2,300 pounds of phosphorus, that is per year is our estimate that we have saved. So if you think back, depending on how long the discharge would have been occurring, that is a number that you can extrapolate. Yep.
Okay.
So if the repair and the construction didn't take place and brought into compliance for this component, we would still be leaching. You potentially could expect a similar amount.
2,500 pounds.
Yeah,
all
every
right.
year. Yep.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right.
Okay, I'm up next. So Survey Division, again, myself, Greg Botzer, Troy Stoll. I want to just kind of highlight our major duties and then focus on the remonumentation part. So this is everything we do. Regulated land division review, perform surveys required by the county or court. We assist the highway department. We file and index survey records, administer the county land division ordinance, questions from the public, provide copies of survey records, and then remonumentation work. So I thought I would take a little bit different spin on the remonumentation. In years past, I've presented pictures of all the neat monuments we found. And I thought this I'd try to make it a little more meaningful, right? For people, what do these monuments represent and who's affected by these monuments? And I think you're going to find by the end that there's a lot more of the public that is affected by these monuments. They're not even aware of it in their daily activities when they buy and sell land. So I thought I'd start out with Dunn County on the left. There's roughly 864 square miles in Dunn County. We have 24 townships. And then on the right, I broke out town 26 north, range 13 west. So on the left slide, you can see where it sits in in the county. So out of 864 square miles, we're going to break out 36 square miles, which is town 26 north, range 13 west. And then we're going to focus on section, I know the section numbers are kind of hard to see, but the far lower left section in the 36 square mile diagram is section 31. So I'm going to break that out on the left. So now we're down to 1 square mile. And I think most county board members understand or have a perception of what a square mile of land is. And we can see the current parcel mapping. There's a lot of parcels, right, in section 31. Before county board, I intend to have the number of landowners in that section, but it's numerous. There's a lot of property owners just in that 1 square mile. That's as it exists today. On the right-hand side is how it existed in 1849 when the original survey came through. There wasn't much there. There's a road running through, which is a county highway right now, and the O'Galley mill pond was there, and the O'Galley mill was also there, the lumber mill. So a lot has changed since 1849 as far as ownership. So then I want to highlight just 1 square mile. So everywhere you see an X on here, there was a wood post put in the ground in 1849. Okay, that was a long time ago, 177 years ago. Between 1849 and 1848 and 1849, wood posts were set at each one of the X's. Those posts were set to control all the property ownership within that square mile. Years ago, a lot of people owned 160 acres. They were sold a quarter section of land when they moved here under the Homestead Act of 1860. Today, we don't see that. Yes, we do have some landowners that own large pieces of land, but a lot of people own smaller, much smaller parcels. So 177 years later, those 8 positions that were originally marked with a wood post still control the description of the property of every piece of land within that square mile. The major duty of our office is to make sure those 8 positions get maintained and perpetuated. There was originally a wood post there. Today we have a variety of different monuments that I'd mentioned, rebars, nails, and roads. So it's very important that those 8 positions be protected and preserved and monumented. Things happen over the years. If you look at on the lower right, that X, that corner falls in County Highway Double D. There's a monument there now, but it could get removed the next time, probably will get removed the next time they repave that road. So we need to go back and make sure we have a monument there, because if a surveyor comes out and is doing work in that corner of the section, they're going to need to measure to that monument. And the point I want to make is monuments mark corners of property, not intersecting blue lines on this GIS website or a coordinate in your Onyx app on your phone. When you go home and walk out in your backyard to where you think your property corner is, you want to see a pipe there, right? You go give it a kick with your foot, just like you kick the tire on your car when you buy it. That's your property corner. That's what everybody recognizes, not some blue lines on a map. So it's very important that monuments at these 8 points be protected and preserved and maintained. So that's a large portion of what we do. And I just want to highlight all the different parcels that are in this 1 square mile. We have certified survey maps recorded within that square mile. We have several subdivision plats. We have a condominium plat. We have at least 1 highway right-of-way plat for County Highway Z, and numerous legal descriptions, right, that were created a long time ago. Some were created real recently. They may or may not have had a survey done. The bottom line is there's a lot of ownership and boundary lines within this 1 square mile out of 864 square miles in the county that rely on those 8 corner positions. So hopefully you can see the importance of those positions and preserving and protecting them. And then I just wanted to finish my slide or presentation up with some examples. Here's a subdivision plat that's tied to those corners, a certified survey map on the left, a condominium plat on the right. I mentioned some properties never had a survey on, but they needed legal description. Here's an excerpt from a legal description I found commencing at the west quarter corner. So that's one of those 8 corners that I had highlighted. So I'm not sure that's probably gonna be the end of my report because it's getting long, but if I have time, I was just gonna present this slide here, kind of the history of the public land survey system in Dunn County, and then why it's so important that the system be protected, and leave everybody with that picture, that if you don't get anything out of this report, if you're out walking sometime and you see a road under construction, you see one of those signs, please give us a call, because there's an important marker here. So, and that's going to be the end of my report. So I guess we're looking for suggestions, feedback, comments, anything you'd like to see done differently. And I'll answer any questions that you have at this point, and then I'll turn it over to Tammy and she'll finish up the report. So.
Any questions so far? Okay.
Okay.
All right, just a quick opening slide again for the Planning and Land Use Division and our highlights. This will just cover, our overall mission. We do guide responsible growth while preserving the rural character, protecting natural resources, and supporting sustainable development. I'd like to believe that planning today for the county is planning today for the county we want tomorrow. Kind of really sticking with that theme is, I do feel like our land use decisions and that we are making, do help protect one person's dream from becoming another person's nightmare. I mean, I think that's what zoning really is trying to accomplish. Again, here's our roster from 2024. We support the zoning permits, land use compliance, the Board of Adjustment through variances and special exceptions. We have our sanitation program maintenance, and then the comprehensive planning initiatives. You guys already seen some of this data, highlighting our permit numbers. I threw some pictures in here, some highlights. On the top left, beautiful property I felt on Tanner Lake that had a wild fescue grass growing. I shouldn't say wild, it's just a native cool season, but it's a tall, fluffy grass that does maintain a shoreline, it's lower growing, and is very beneficial to not having mowing activities all the way down to the water. Middle picture just, I think speaks volumes to the water quality that we're battling on Tanner Lake. On the right, top right, my 20 plus years of work in stormwater erosion control, I think this site made the top 10 worst erosion sites I've ever seen. And that's the second row of silt fence that then also broke and discharged a large amount of sediment into Tanner Lake. So slope disturbance does matter. And I really look forward to, actually providing some training opportunities this year for staff on stormwater erosion control and what to look for and how to review plans, so we can prevent situations like this in the future. The next two slides on the bottom left and middle, this was our first system in Dunn County, which is called a box mound, where we have very limited sites. This property owner in Tanner Lake had a holding tank, a household of 6, and was becoming too costly for them to pump their holding tank. They ended up putting this mound system in, which is actually built within 2 concrete walls and very limited to really unique technology now that allows us to utilize small spaces and create a sanitary system. So pretty cool to see it on our first site in Dunn County. And then on the right, Lewis, when we were out on one of our inspections, hard to see in this photo, but it was actually a buried topsoil layer. So how important our soil tests are, the soil borings, to help us realize that we can't put a system above at that surface, that we find this buried topsoil layer and the system has to be much deeper in this case for treatment. Again, some big wins. These the items that I talked about previously. Again, the accessory dwelling unit ordinance, again, that this committee put a lot of effort into. And the other highlights that we talked about before. And then just finally, just shout out to the great team that we do have in our planning and zoning. It was a stressful end of 2024 with Lily and Michelle and Tracy and myself surviving some challenges with the new software system, coming at us. But we do look forward to 2025 with our comprehensive plan, farmland preservation plan update, this new software system, building upon our community engagement enforcement tools, and focusing in growing our team and welcoming 2 new team members, hopefully here end of June into July. So thank you.
Thanks, Dan. Any questions or suggestions?
Well, my only suggestion, I love it when you do graphs and pictures. Attention span is somewhat short. So the more you can sort of entertain the board, the better, I think. So well done.
I was a little confused by if you go back to the picture where you had the erosion or the soil, the bottom right-hand pictures. Your explanation of that was a little confusing to me. What is it? Try it again.
So the bottom left.
Bottom right. The bottom left is.
So bottom right is with Lewis.
Yeah.
I see that, this is good, right? So you see that our pictures don't come over, the clarity doesn't as noticed. But he was actually pointing to a topsoil layer that was buried. And so the soil above it looked like it was suitable for treatment of a system. And so when we do a soil boring, let's say it's 12 inches, 18 inches, 24, if we get down to that 24 inches and start finding this topsoil. And then we realized that we can't put a system,
Okay.
shallow system, because that topsoil will actually impede treatment of a sewer system. So that's a fair, thank you for,
It was a little bit confusing.
No,
That
no.
clarifies it, yeah.
I appreciate that. Nope, thank you.
Okay, anything else? Right, thanks. Good report. Okay, now we're, I think, at 9, the resolution on the budget adjustment from London Water Conservation.
Yeah, so we
Yes.
talked about it already a little bit, but basically this is a budget adjustment for a grant that we applied for in April. We've since received the award and now we're working further with the landowner to pursue construction and design plans and that sort of thing. But this is a state grant that comes in. It's $880,473 and is to support the land and water conservation budget in order to achieve compliance with our county's ordinance as well as state administrative code NR 151. If you have any questions, I can provide.
Questions? I think I know the answer to this, but so when we do this type of grant and or compensation, do you make an assessment of the ongoing viability of the operation? So we're making sure we're putting this amount of money into something that's going to be going forward.
Certainly we do. That's always a part of our conversation. And then we have to find that balance of longevity of the farming operation and also what risk are we going to, or what are we willing to tolerate as far as, in this case, this is a discharge to groundwater, or it could be discharge to surface water, and what are we willing to tolerate for how long should that farm no longer farm, that sort of thing. So yeah, if we felt that there was an imminent cease of the farm or transition of something, then we probably wouldn't pursue this. But in our conversation with the farm, that there is a future here. So
Any other questions about this request? Can I have a motion to approve? Diane and Gary seconds. Any further discussion? Well, it feels great that we're getting all this money from the state. Good work. Good work. Must mean you're doing a good job at putting the applications in.
we have some help from our DNR partners who may be in the room too. So
Oh, okay. Well, thank you, whoever you are. Yeah. Any further discussion? No, hearing none. All in favor of approving the adjustment, say aye. Both say no. It's approved. Any announcements from anyone? Tammy?
I just want to let the committee know that we do have our first focus group meeting for the agriculture and working lands scheduled for next Tuesday from 10 to 12 in this room. So we have approximately, I think, between staff, we'll have about a dozen people attending that focus group meeting. So I think it seems like a good turnout.
So has the survey gone out to folks?
It
yet?
has not.
Okay.
Yep.
Right.
So that will be a item that will be discussed as part of this focus group before that survey goes out.
Okay. All right. Then our next meeting is June 18th. And we are adjourned. Thanks, everybody. Short meeting.